What's poppin', Cowabunga Crew? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. Remember that totally radical animated Ninja Turtles movie from 2007, simply called TMNT? We're about to break that movie down today, so let us not waste any time and take a bite into this delicious cinematic pizza, shall we, my dudes and dudettes? Directed by Kevin Munroe, 2007's TMNT is the first ever animated Ninja Turtles movie, appearing on the scene a full 14 years after 1993's live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Releasing on March 23, 2007, the movie would rake in $95.6 million globally after spending $34 million to make it, which up until that point was the most money ever spent on a Ninja Turtles movie. Voice actor Mikey Kelly plays Mikey, the birthday party turtle in this movie, famously known for playing the voice of Ratchet in the first ever Ratchet & Clank video game back in 2002. In every other Ratchet & Clank video game, Ratchet would be voiced by James Arnold Taylor, who also plays Ninja Turtle leader Leonardo in this movie, a leader sent to Central America by his father Master Splinter to teach him how to be a better leader somehow. Not sure how turning your son into a jungle pariah promotes teamwork, but hey, I'm not an old-ass ninja rat, so who am I to question a ninja rat's ways? Mitchell Whitfield, who played Barry Farber on Friends, plays Donatello, the turtle genius who starts the movie as an IT support phone operator during Leo's absence. And we can't forget about voice acting legend Nolan North, most famous for playing Nathan Drake in the Uncharted video game series, playing the rough and tough Raphael, the turtle who naps all day because he's too busy being the armor-clad night watcher at night. But hey, speaking of legends, Mako Iwamatsu, famous for his iconic role as Uncle Iroh in Avatar: The Last Airbender, plays the role of Master Splinter here. The movie is actually dedicated in his honor, as that actor would pass away during production, leading to voice actor Greg Baldwin to replace him, just like Baldwin would end up doing with the role of Uncle Iroh in Avatar. And of course, British legend Sir Patrick Stewart plays the villain Max Winters, originally known as the immortal would-be world conqueror Yaddle. Buffy the Vampire Slayer Sarah Michelle Gellar plays the archaeologist April O'Neil, who we see at the very start of the movie looking for Leo in Central America while she was on the artifact hunting job for Max Winters. And former Captain America Chris Evans plays the badass Casey Jones, my personal favorite character in the whole Ninja Turtles franchise. Josh Peck of Drake and Josh fame was originally considered for that role, but would not get the chance to play an animated Casey Jones until Nickelodeon's 2012 Ninja Turtles cartoon. But while we're on the subject of Nickelodeon, they're kind of one of the main reasons why this movie never got a sequel, because October 2009 saw Nickelodeon parent company Viacom purchased the Ninja Turtles IP from series creators Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman for a whopping $60 million. So, because Viacom wanted to do their own things with the Turtles, they scrapped whatever plans Kevin Munroe had for TMNT 2. But of course, that's not the only reason, as Imagi Animation Studios, the studio behind this movie, would also shut down in 2010, following the box office bomb that was 2009's Astro Boy film. But in regards to what director Kevin Munroe was actually planning for the sequel, apparently it was going to be mainly focused on the turtle Michaelangelo, and how he would be driven to join the Foot Clan after years of being treated like an unserious ninja by his brothers. And that movie would also have seen the return of the Shredder after Karai and the Foot leave the Turtles to travel to Shredder's native country of Japan. But that's just TMNT 2. Munroe has also talked about ideas for TMNT 3, which would have seen Donatello accidentally open up an interdimensional portal that would have brought the alien Triceratons to their reality, along with Krang's infamous Technodrome murder sphere, which would have been super cool to see in this universe. Lawrence Fishburne, who of course famously played Morpheus in the Matrix franchise, serves as the main narrator of this movie, and we hear him after the movie starts with imagery of the green chemical ooze that mutated 4 regular turtles into 4 regular teenage ninjas with a pizza addiction. And during the narration, we see the turtles leaping from rooftop to rooftop with the New York City skyline in the distance, a skyline devoid of any noticeable New York City buildings or landmarks, which is kind of weird. And after Morpheus lets us know that the Turtles have already defeated their nemesis, Master Shredder, before the events of this movie, a green graphic of the planet pops up with a special bright spot thrown over Mexico specifically, alluding to where the following war scene takes place 3,000 years prior, which is kind of odd considering that Mexico is not part of Central America at all. Seems like a bit of a movie mistake, but we'll roll with it. At any rate, we then learn how around 1000 BC, this warlord named Yaddle had a brotherhood of conquerors who wished to conquer the entire planet. And to make that happen, Yaddle and the homies were willing to use the cosmic power of the stars of Kikin, which opened an interdimensional portal and flooded Yaddle's body with energetic immortality at the price of all of his warlord homies getting stoned. And I don't mean the fun 420 stoned, like actually turned to stone. And also, 13 monsters popped out of that portal as well and began terrorizing humanity for 3,000 years, which is not that big of a deal. Just kidding. Needless to say, Yaddle would have massive regrets for what he's done, which is why he would hire April O'Neil to gather the stone remains of his family in Central America 3,000 years later. Which doesn't make any sense, because if this dude truly loved his family so much, he would have taken all those statues of his generals with him 3,000 years ago instead of just, leaving them there. Why would you leave them there? Just take them with you. But I digress. During April's trip to Costa Rica, she hears tale of the legendary Ghost of the Jungle, who recently helped a village recover food and supplies stolen by local asshole Colonel Santino, played by the very non-Costa Rican actor John DiMaggio, famously the voice of Bender on Futurama and Jake the Dog on Adventure Time. And tracking down the clues from the incident, April then manages to fall right into the arms of Leo himself. And as the two catch up, Leo learns that Donnie is now running telephone IT support, with some of Donnie's customers confusing him for a phone sex worker, while Mikey works as a children's birthday party entertainer named Cowabunga Carl. Also, he can fill the back of his van with more pizza from Checo's Pizzeria. The birthday party that we see Mikey working at, as Red Flag by Billy Talent plays in the background, is apparently for a little girl, as a photograph of that little girl's family can be seen in the living room. The mother from that photograph can also be seen briefly following after the kids when they all rush in to beat Cowabunga Carl with their styrofoam weapons, with each of those weapons modeled after the Ninja Turtles weaponry. And like I mentioned earlier, Raphael has been spending his nights as the legendary Night Watcher. And when this Night Watcher chases down a burglar, he says that he loves when they play hard to get, echoing how one of Donnie's phone customers thought that Donnie was playing hard to get just moments ago. And after filling Leo in on what his brothers are up to, April begs him to come back to New York City, especially since Leo has been away for a full year longer than Master Splinter originally told him to be gone for. She even mentions to Leo that if Master Splinter were there instead of her, he would encourage him to follow his heart. This movie's first hint at April O'Neil having undergone a bit of ninja training from Master Splinter as well, because later on in the movie we see April kicking all sorts of ass with a katana in a yellow jumpsuit, evoking Uma Thurman in the 2003 classic Kill Bill. But the yellow jumpsuit is of course a nod to the yellow jumpsuit that April O'Neil originally wore in the original comics and 80s cartoon. Mikey then returns back home in his 1964 Dodge A100 Cowabunga Carl van, a repainted version of the famous Ninja Turtle van, which made its first appearance in Season 1, Episode 3 of the 1980s animated series. And from there it appeared in the first live-action Turtles movie from 1990, as well as the two Michael Bay Turtles films. The license plate of the van says Dude 1, a reference to the Ghostbusters license plate Ecto 1. And after parking the van in Donatello's secret hiding spot, Mikey heads into the sewers to skate his green ass home, with the Jet song Rip It Up playing in the background. And when Mikey arrives back to his empty lair, he announces his presence by yelling, "Here's Mikey," a reference to the famous intro to the Johnny Carson show, as well as Jack Nicholson's iconic line from 1980's The Shining. And one of the arcade machines in the turtle lair has the red mecha Zeus on it as a nod to China's Zentrix cartoon series, produced by this movie's animation studio, Imagi Animation. Mikey then hops onto the couch to sleepily watch some news on TV. And when a news report on the Night Watcher comes up, the ticker on the bottom of the screen shows the words, "Ancient stars baffle astronomers," a reference to the stars of Kikin that are beginning to align again after 3,000 years. Donnie and Raph then enter the lair's main area and begin arguing about the Night Watcher and his tactics. And as they argue, Donnie brings up how Raph always loves to use fear as his main tactic, something that famous DC Comics vigilante Batman commonly uses during his own night patrols. Then when Master Splinter enters the frame to preach family unity, we can see that the fridge in the background has 4 little turtle magnets on it, which is quite adorable. Meanwhile, Casey Jones has overslept and is late to help his girlfriend April O'Neil transport some old-ass statues to Max Winters, whose face can also be seen on a magazine on Casey's couch. Casey finally gets his ass up to help his girl, and the two make their way to Winters Corp. And inside of Max Winters' main office, we can see a statue of a Triceratops, a strong nod to the Triceraton race of aliens from the original Ninja Turtles comics and cartoons. Winters mentions that that particular stone statue that they've delivered is of General Aguila, with Aguila meaning eagle in Spanish. All of Winters' generals in this movie have the name of animals, with General Serpiente pointing to the serpent, General Gato meaning General Cat, and General Mono refers to General Monkey. Winter's real name, Yaddle, actually translates to warrior in the ancient Mexican language of Nahuatl. But anyways, right after April and Casey leave, Winters gets an expected yet unexpected visit from the Foot Clan and their new leader, Karai, voiced by actress Zhang Ziyi. The character of Karai was first introduced in 1992's TMNT 52 as Shredder's second-in-command who takes over the Foot Clan following his death, much like we see in this movie. And though some iterations of the Turtles have Karai as a blood relative to Shredder in some way, this wasn't the case when the character was created in the 1990s, and it also doesn't seem to be the case in this movie universe as well. Winters then orders the Foot to keep an eye out for some special guests that should be visiting the city soon, neglecting to tell them that these guests are the 13 bloodthirsty monsters that have inspired mythological legends throughout time, with the first of these creatures that we see being Succubor, the vampire gargoyle bat. And a little later, we see that Leo has taken a trans-Latin American flight back to New York City and finally arrives back to the turtle lair as his brothers sleep, with a sleeping Donnie having the same Max Winters magazine over his face that was on Casey's couch earlier. Leo immediately goes to greet Master Splinter, whose keen senses already detected his son's return, much like he would soon detect Raphael snooping at his doorway. And inside of Splinter's room, his walls are covered with pictures of his family, including one of April O'Neil, who he considers as family. But at the front of the room is a painting of Splinter's former human owner, Hamato Yoshi, who Splinter learned all of his martial arts from. And while Splinter is happy that his sons are now together again, he forbids them from fighting crime in the city until they learn to fight as a team and make up for each other's weaknesses. But the Turtles immediately ignore this when they hear the roar of a monster who inspired the Sasquatch legend at the nearby construction site. Then, after watching the Foot Clan get their black pajama pants beat by Bigfoot, the Turtles jump in to engage the beast, with Mikey calling him Fuzzy Wuzzy, a reference to the famous Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear, Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair nursery rhyme. But the Turtles quickly get their asses beat by this mysterious monster too, before said monster mysteriously disappears after being scooped up by the 4 generals. When the Turtles process what just happened back at home, we can see Donnie attempting to read up on Sasquatches in a red book called Monsters and Mythologies. However, their discussion hushes up real damn quick when their dad Splinter comes into the kitchen humming an old Japanese lullaby, something that voice actor Mako Iwamatsu added to the scene on his own. But despite the Turtles' attempts to keep their late-night adventure a secret, Splinter's favorite Gilmore Girls program would be interrupted by a news story about monster sightings, instantly getting those silly green boys in trouble. Meanwhile, the Foot Clan try and fail to apprehend a wild monster by the name of Centaur, who honestly should have been called Cyclops instead on account of his giant singular eyeball, but I guess they do have the 4 legs of a centaur on the bottom, so it technically does count. This is then followed by the capture of monsters like Lafargo, inspired by the Brazilian mythical monster the Mapinguari, as well as the spider monster named Arachnor. Winters and his army eventually gather 10 out of the 13 of the monsters needed for the portal before we switch to April and Casey's apartment, where a new story on the Bigfoot battle catches April's attention, with the ticker at the bottom of the screen also mentioning the high number of pets missing, a possible allusion towards how these 13 monsters have been feeding themselves while they're in the city. Raphael then calls Casey Jones to the rooftops and leads him to the gargoyle monster Succubor as they're being subdued by the Foot and the 4 generals. Raph is quickly hit with a trank dart when they notice Raph and Casey watching them, leaving the two to flee for their lives. Barricading themselves behind a door, Raph says, "And I thought Girl Scouts were pushy," when General Gato attempts to bust the door down. This is a slight nod to the very first Ninja Turtles movie when Mikey says the same thing about insurance salesmen.
Whoa! And I thought insurance salesmen were pushy. And I thought Girl Scouts were pushy.
After getting knocked the shell out, Casey brings Raph's unconscious body back to his apartment, the second time a live-action unconscious Raphael has been forced to recuperate at April's place after going off by himself, which is what happened with Raphael in the 1990 Ninja Turtles film. April calls the Turtles fam, who then meet up at said apartment to assess their defeated brother. And forcing Raphael's eyes open, Donatello exposes his brown irises, which he shares with his brothers Donatello and Leonardo. The director apparently deliberately gave Mikey blue eyes because they felt like blue made Mikey look far more innocent and far less mature than his other brothers. In analyzing the stone shuriken lodged in Raph's shell, April realizes that the myth of the old conqueror Yaddle was real after all, and that he might still be alive after 3,000 years of living on Earth. And during April's explanation, we get a shot of one of Max Winter's paintings of himself as a Roman general, followed by a stone statue bust of himself with a laurel wreath crown, a crown that only victorious Roman military commanders and emperors wore. This is before statues of Winters as a British military general and Egyptian pharaoh also appear, showing Max's relentless thirst for conquest throughout the ages, a character backstory strongly resembling that of DC Comics' Vandal Savage. Frustrated at Leo's refusal to disobey Splinter's orders again, Raphael quits the team and heads to the rooftops to patrol as the Night Watcher, with the stars of Kikin shining in the sky when he does. And using his police scanner, Raph gets word of a disturbance at a nearby diner that was called in by the diner's cook, a cook voiced by nerd culture icon Kevin Smith. Night Watcher arrives on the scene and engages in a chaotic battle with the monster that inspired the myth of the Jersey Devil, all while Black Betty by Ram Jam blares in the background. They completely destroy the kitchen in their fight until Raph tosses some explosive pellets in the Jersey Devil's mouth, causing them to flee in pain. And when they do, you can see a business sign on the street that says MyScapes Optometry, an eye doctor's parody of the formerly popular social media platform MySpace. The Night Watcher is then eventually spotted by Leo, and then the two eventually engage in an insanely dope rooftop battle that is, in my opinion, the best moment that has ever happened in a Ninja Turtles movie to this day. One that Leo turns into an impromptu lesson about how blinding anger can be. Leo then takes advantage of Raphael's blindness and knocks the helmet off of his head, revealing Raphael's identity. And I love the intensity of the scene and how it takes place on a roof of a place called the Red Eye Club, because that name is symbolic on so many levels. And not only is it late in the night, but this scene is also all about the red-eyed anger of the turtle with the red bandana. And Raph uses that anger to best his brother, but once he sees that he's about to seriously hurt someone that he deeply cares about, he snaps out of that anger and flees in shame. But then even more Red-Eye Club members join the scene when the 4 Red-Eyed Generals and the Red-Eyed Foot Clan arrive to tranquilize Leo and swap him for one of the 13 monsters. Because you see, Aguila has been beginning to sense that Max Winters is pulling a fast one on the family and means to betray them. So the 4 generals plan to keep Winters from reversing their stone curse by stopping the 13 monsters from returning to the portal. And after fruitlessly chasing after the generals, a guilty Raphael returns home and comes clean about what he did to Splinter and what just happened to Leo. But it's actually Splinter's reaction when he learns that Leo's in trouble that actually piques my interest here, because you can see him genuinely experience his own anger. He pants heavily in rage before closing his eyes and calming himself down, showing how much he's mastered his own emotions in order to be an inspiration to his own sons. And preparing to help the turtles fight, April and Casey listen to There's a Class for This from the band Cute Is What We Aim For. And when the group finally do storm the castle, they kick all sorts of ninja ass to the song Lights Out by P.O.D. And at the end of the battle, Casey Jones yells the words 2 minutes for high sticking, which is exactly what Elias Koteas said in 1990 when he first appeared as Casey Jones in the first Turtles movie.
2 minutes for slashing, 2 minutes for hooking, and let's not forget my personal favorite, 2 minutes for high sticking.
The Turtles then free Leo right before Max Winters is confronted for his secret plans to spare humanity from the 13 monstrosities while also reversing his family's immortality. And although they would remain stone forever, the 4 formerly human generals would rather be immortal and conquer the world than be forced to die, so they threatened to send Winters through the portal himself. But Winters is now defended by the Turtles, who manage to hold off the generals until Casey, April, and the Foot locate the final missing monster, a giant crocodile beast named Krateco, who Casey Jones leads into the main portal chamber to knock the 4 generals inside. And as they all yell out in defeat on their way to a new dimension, you can see them all transform back into humans in the process. And with the curse now undone, Max Winters is finally allowed to disintegrate and die, with some of the remains flying into Mikey's mouth hilariously. And it would be even more hilarious if a future movie revealed that that dust somehow made Mikey immortal or something, but I guess we'll never know there. And in Winter's honor, Splinter takes his helmet and adds it to his room of items from the Turtles' past adventures. Adventures that imply that this universe also underwent the events of the live-action Turtles trilogy from the 90s. From the top left of this collection, we can see one of the helmets that the Turtles wore in the third Ninja Turtles movie from 1993, a movie that I recently broke down on this channel. And under that, we can see the cracked TGRI canister of ooze that mutated the Turtles and was centric to 1991's Secret of the Ooze. And to the right of those is Shredder's dreaded mask, designed like the way it was in the first 1990 movie. And that's next to one of the samurai masks that Leo, Donnie, and Raph wore in TMNT 3. And underneath that is a glass container holding the Time Scepter, the magical staff used to transport the Turtles back in time to feudal Japan in that movie as well. And right at the bottom, we can see the mechanical body parts of broken Mouser robots, weapons traditionally created by Ninja Turtles villain Baxter Stockman in both the comics and 80s TV show. And all the way at the right of the frame is the red armor that Lord Norinaga wore in TMNT 3. And after Raphael adds his Night Watcher helmet to Splinter's collection, he ends the movie by doing a voiceover that includes the words, "We strike hard and fade away into the night." Words that end the final page of the very first Ninja Turtles comic from 1984. But anyways, that is it for this breakdown of TMNT 2007. What do you guys think about this movie? Let us know in the comment section down below. You guys can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, wherever I am on the internet. But most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button and maybe hitting that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. But like always, I've been MT, you guys have been amazing, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.